This is Priscilla Martinez with Tuned In and NoCo. Today, I'm speaking with Sean Kiefer from the Matthews House. How are you today, Sean?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. For those who are unfamiliar, what is the Matthews House and how did it come to be?
The Matthews House is a nonprofit organization that serves Larimer County. Our mission statement is to empower youth and families by building trusting relationships and providing resources to disrupt the cycles of poverty and abuse. It started back at the end of 2005 into 2006 on a park bench in Old Town, Fort Collins. One of our founders was just talking to a homeless youth and really quickly found out, like, if you're over 18 and you don't have kids, there are no services for you. Being a youth is really where all the services and support is at. And so the Matthews House was founded as a way to provide those resources to kids. And then over the years, we've expanded to families. And then from families, we're now working with the community, trying to make the reach and the vision bigger and broader and more available to everybody to really get on board with.
That's amazing. And how did you make your way into the Matthews House?
Me personally, I made my way so prior to this, I was one of the managers at a group home for developmentally disabled individuals. And it was a wonderful job that only operated outside the time of, an 8 to 5. So we were on from the overnight and doing medical emergencies and all kinds of stuff. And those hours just weren't really sustainable for me. So I had a buddy who worked at the Matthews House, and he reached out and said there was an opening. And so I applied, and now I'm coming up on 9 years in April.
Oh, wow. You've been there almost a decade.
Oh, it's a great place. There's no reason I would ever want to leave. Yeah.
Now, Sean, Northern Colorado is a great place to live, but most of us don't really think about these kinds of issues happening here. How big of an issue is poverty and abuse here in Northern Colorado?
I don't think it's any more pervasive in Northern Colorado than it is anywhere else. But I think also, like everywhere else, those issues they're hidden. We don't see them, and we don't particularly want to see them. Often impoverished people are pushed to outskirts of towns. It's just not a population that we run into day in and day out and really recognize. But as far as poverty goes, I mean, more than 1 in 10 families in Larimer County is living below the poverty line. And for a family of 4, that is just over $25,000 a year. And if you think about what you pay in rent or what your house costs, if you happen to be a homeowner in the area, you know that's not a lot of money in this town. Yeah. As far as abuse goes, that's not even necessarily fully connected to poverty. Abuse can happen in all kinds of different ways. And a lot of times it's something that we can't see. Like emotional abuse isn't something that's readily visible to people. And so it's all pervasive everywhere. What the Matthews House is trying to do is really take that hidden population that have been we're turning a blind eye to it, or we don't know how to help them. And so we're not looking carefully and really looking directly at them and trying to figure out how to support them. And then also to magnify it so that the rest of the community really understands the scope of the need.
And in your time with the Matthews House, which is almost a decade, how have you seen it make an impact on the youth and families here locally in Northern Colorado?
Oh, man. I had 9 years worth of stories.
And with that goes my other question then. Do you have any personal stories that you would like to share? You don't have to name any names or anything like that.
I've seen the Matthews House make a ton of impact in a lot of different ways. I think with an organization like ours, it seems like the direct service is where all of the impact would be. But we impact people constantly just by informing them, bringing them in, and really fostering the care of the community. So I don't know if someone has a lot of money and they aren't regularly interacting with impoverished people, us telling the stories of those people can give that person with money a place to give that's really meaningful, that they get to see the dividends of in their community that they live in and care about. As far as specific stories, man.
Anything that sticks with you?
Oh, there's so many.
I'm sure there's a lot.
So my role within the Matthews House is a little bit varied and has evolved over the years, but I'm the experiential education director, and that would be our after-school activities, the kinds of things that kids would come to in the afternoons and evenings. And it's evolved over the years. But one of the things that really sticks out to me, one of the events, is this pair of sisters who came to one of our after school activities. And they'd been coming for, I don't know, a few months. And they truly, if I asked them a direct question, they would not make eye contact. They would not respond. They were very codependent on each other and really were trying not to be seen. But they did get encouraged by their worker to come to a pottery class that we were hosting. And they came for the first week, didn't really engage. And then the second week, one of the siblings ended up being put in placement. So it was just the youngest sibling by themselves for the first time. And she had no idea how to handle it, but she stuck to it, did pottery, and looked around and realized really quickly that of the 10 of us that were there, she was the only one who was successfully making anything. All the rest of us were dropping things into blobs. And so there was a sense of self-efficacy. And she started to engage and she started to give advice. And this kid was 12.
Wow.
And if you fast forward 6 months, she had nicknames for every staff at the Matthews house. She was feisty. She was sassy. She had a boyfriend. She was succeeding in school. She found a lot of success in the foster placement that she was put into and has continued that success even after working with the Matthews house and has stayed kind of in touch with us. So that one example is just giving the opportunity for someone to learn something that they're passionate about, for providing a consistent, safe place for a youth that has extensive trauma history. Can be as meaningful as anything. Like they don't necessarily need to get a job sometimes at 12, for example. They need to be able to feel confident in being seen and being who they are and developing. And that's something that she was given through the Matthews house.
Yeah, and Sean, small things are not trivial. I mean, she was like maybe in this cocoon and then she came out as a butterfly and blossomed.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something one of our founders really, it was a kind of a saying that she had, Jerry. She would talk about the spark, like finding the spark, the thing that makes someone tick, that makes them want to really evolve. And I think, I don't know if pottery was the spark, if succeeding was the spark, whatever it was for this particular kid, they found it. And if I think back to, my own experience as a middle-class white guy in Larimer County, I'm pretty on par with the rest of the demographics here. I had a lot of opportunities to find sparks. And so they didn't mean quite as much, I think. And my life was pretty comfortable. But for someone who comes from maybe a truly tragic, dark place, those sparks can look a lot brighter and can mean a lot more.
Right. 100%.
And then secondary story, a more recent one. We have 2 kids who take part in our Dungeons and Dragons group, which is one of our activities I didn't believe in at the beginning. I thought it was ridiculous. And now I personally play once a week in my free time.
That's awesome.
That's a cool game.
I love it.
But these 2 kids came and they both have a really hard time connecting with peers. And they have been playing together weekly for over a year. And both independently of each other had told me, I don't have friends. There's no one in my life that isn't paid to be in my life. And then I watched one afternoon while after they were playing, we were eating pizza, which is as it should be when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. You should eat pizza. They made a plan to hang out. So I watched these 2 kids who were so adamant they could not have friends, they couldn't succeed with peers, become friends. And they've continued to hang out outside of the Matthews house time. They don't even live in the same city, but they make an effort and are purposeful about seeing each other and sharing, they tell stories while they play D&D, but then they do the same thing just in their own time. So, friendless to friend.
And because of the Matthews house, because of you guys offered this, then amazing friendship blossomed that might have not gotten somewhere else. Speaking of that, can you tell me more about the programs you offer, like the D&D thing?
Oh, sure. We offer, we would absolutely fill 15 minutes if I just walked you through all the programs that we offer agency-wide. But experiential education, we offer after-school activities Monday through Friday. Dungeons and Dragons is one of them. Music lessons, individual music lessons that are taught by local musicians is another. Music production and collaborating as they learn music is another one. We have an art group, and then we do climbing. We're really doubled down on climbing, which is such a cool activity. And so apropos to our town,
Can you tell me, for those that are in need of assistance, how can they reach out to the Matthews house to get help?
Through the website, There's contact information, and they can just call. We also have a couple facilities. We have our Youth and Family Center, which is in North Fort Collins. We have a Community Life Center, which meets, which has offices in First Presbyterian, the church on Mulberry and College. And then we have another Community Life Center that meets and has offices at the Genesis Project over on Link Lane. And walk-ins are options as well.
And for our listeners that are on the other side who want to get involved, how can they donate or volunteer for the Matthews House?
Kind of the same website. We have a development director named Jenny, and who is one of the more delightful people that you'll ever meet. So maybe call her whether you have anything to give or not. She'll brighten your day. But we would love to, through the website or through just walk-ins, and we'll give you a tour of our facilities, talk through how best to partner with anybody who wants to.
And besides the after-school programs, do you have any events coming up?
Yes. COVID has thrown a wrench in everybody's life for multiple years. But we have a big fundraising gala. It's called Cultivate Hope. We haven't been able to do it for the last 2 years, at least in person. But we're really hopeful that June 4th, we'll be able to get together at the Embassy Suites in Loveland. And tickets for that will be available through our website starting in February. It's a really cool event. We have a silent auction. We have stories of participants who actually come up and share them themselves. This is where I started. This is where I came from. And then this is the steps that I've taken with the support of the Matthews House to get to this successful place. And it's a cool thing for businesses if they're interested in sponsoring. We have tables that they can sponsor. And I think there are still some that are available to be sponsored.
And with that is my next question. What do you think lies ahead? I know that we don't know what's going to happen next week or, in a month because of the way things are now. But what do you think lies ahead for the Matthews House for the new year, for this 2022?
The biggest thing in my mind, for me, the most exciting thing is that we have gotten the honor and the privilege to partner with Poudre School District. We have staff who are on site at two of the high schools to offer support academically and emotionally. And that program, I believe, is going to continue to thrive. We also partner with them. They've given us the opportunity with those after school activities that I was telling you about. Most of them carry with them credit. So for kids COVID hit kids really hard. One of the communities in Fort Collins is called Park Lane, and it is just adjacent to one of our community life centers. And 95% of the people in that community didn't have internet access when COVID started. In school, to succeed in school, you needed to have internet access.
Everything was online.
So there were so many people set behind, so many kids, that being able to offer these things as, a safe place where they already know the people, the adults who are there. It's very trauma informed. They can come take part in activities that offer them the chance to find spark and also get credit recovery at the same time is such a cool thing for us to have the opportunity to do. So I think being involved in the schools, continuing that partnership is really where the big thing in my mind for the Matthews House moving through 2022.
100%, I would agree. Sean, is there anything else you would like our listeners to know?
We aren't the only agency that works with this population. It requires so much effort to make this hidden demographic not hidden anymore. So I guess what I would encourage listeners is to really keep your eyes out and look for the people that maybe we societally have been trained to just kind of breeze past. Get involved if you have the opportunity, the time to volunteer, or the money to help support the work, so that our community that we all live in we can bring everybody up to the best of our ability and really just expand that effort.
I think that you said that beautifully. I want to thank you for coming on to Tune In to NoCo and talking to our listeners about your organization, the Matthews House.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Again, that was Sean Kiefer from the Matthews House. Learn more at thematthewshouse.org.